It's not Formula One, it's not rallying, it's something more humble and yet more exciting than both.
Yes, we're here to light some candles, 50 of them in fact, for British touring cars.
And in that 50 years, show me another sport where there's been more close racing, more overtaking, and more amazing driving. Nothing comes close for excitement.
Oh my goodness!
Touring car racing was created to help the motor industry shift metal in the post-war years. Every car on the track looked like the one your dad drove.
And this, the Mark I Jaguar, was one of the first real stars. Tyres, they were skinny, very, and also cross-ply, which means you went everywhere sideways. Roy James, the legendary getaway driver for the great train robbers, was a particular fan that if he was stealing a Jaguar for a getaway car, he always made a point of taking one that had been prepared for touring car racing.
But then, in the mid-60s, the Jags had their noses put out of joint because there was an invasion. The Mustang, the Falcon, and the Chevy Camaro.
Their massive V8s were a most unwelcome intrusion into this British sport. But the Yankee invasion did bring about one of the best and most unique aspects of British touring car racing. We call it the David and Goliath effect.
Basically, you had small-engine, nimble Escorts and Minis up against 5-litre V8 monsters. And with the big boys fast on the straights, but the minnows quicker through the corners, the racing was incredible.
Crabtree is challenging for the lead, and Marshall is challenging for second. What a race this is!
Naturally, the Minis, being plucky Brits, were involved in quite a lot of this David and Goliath stuff.
And in their over-eagerness demonstrated that other great trait of touring cars, crashing.
But BTCC isn't just about crashing. It has many other fine qualities. It is, in fact, the only sport where over the years we've seen loads of F1 superstars up close, in showroom cars.
Graham Hill, Jim Clark, Nigel Mansell, all F1 world champions who were fond of a good touring car race.
Mind you, even though they were racing at much slower speeds than in F1, that didn't stop them crashing.
Here, for example, is Mansell crashing. And here is Gabriele Tarquini crashing.
Oh, it's Tarquini!
But let's not get hung up on crashing. As I say, touring cars is about so much more than that.
Everyone agrees that Ford brought motorsport to the working man, and some say they did it through rallying.
But I disagree. I say they started this social revolution through touring cars.
Escorts, Cortinas and Capris. Over the decades they had the lot.
But their crowning glory was this, the Sierra Cosworth. 2 litres, turbocharged up to 550 brake horsepower. In the late 80s it was invincible. It won 43 races.
The Fords were hungry for wins, and inevitably, in their over-eagerness, there were some crashes.
But let's not lower the tone of this film with gratuitous crashes. Touring cars is, as I say again, about so much more than that.
Especially during the 1990s, a decade when all the engines were capped at 2 litres, and nearly every manufacturer was taking part. Basically, every rep car in the high street was out there swapping paint.
In the last race of 1992, for instance, in the final 2 laps, any one of 3 drivers could have won the championship.
And just look at the kind of racing that produced. One of the contenders, Steve Soper, having been punted off and now fighting his way from the back, drove out of his skin.
Soper goes through to 4th position inside the Vauxhall. Tim Harvey in the second BMW is inside Cleland at Bridge. He's gone through, but John Cleland is attacking Soper. He's up on 2 wheels. Soper holds his line. He attacks again as they go to the right-hander and love him. And he goes spin.
That one race alone sums up everything that's so brilliant about touring cars. And even though the 90s was the high-budget corporate era, naturally there were a few spills along the way. Here, and here, and here, and here. So, happy birthday touring cars.
And I still can't quite put my finger on